Two people worked on the same floor of the same building for 26 years. One of them sat by the window, near the copier, at a desk with a chipped ceramic mug that said "World's Okayest Gardener" and a printed spreadsheet taped to the wall beside her monitor, corners curling, updated by hand and blue pen every single month. The other sat in the corner office, in a leather chair that cost more than her first car, with a view of the river and a watch on his wrist that he mentioned casually, often, in a way that was designed to sound like he wasn't mentioning it. She made $52,000 a year. He made just over $310,000. If you had walked onto that floor on any random Tuesday and someone had asked you to point at the person who would retire first, you would have pointed at the corner office. Every single person reading this would have pointed at the corner office. The car in the lot, the suits, the vacation photos on the wall behind his desk, the way people lowered their voices when he walked past, every visible signal on that floor said the same thing. They would all have been wrong. She left at 54. He is still there, not because he loves it, because he can't leave. 11 years after she carried a cardboard box out to a 14-year-old Corolla, the man who made 6 times what she made is still logging in at 7 in the morning, still answering emails at 9 at night, still calculating how many more years until the number in his account is big enough to walk away. Stay with me here, because this isn't a story about frugality, and it isn't a story about someone being unusually smart or unusually lucky. There is no inheritance. There is no windfall. There is no secret side business. The math that let her leave is math that was available to him too, more available, in fact, dramatically more available, because he had 6 times the raw material to work with. So here's the question I want you to hold on to for the next few minutes, because everything else hangs off it. If he had 6 times her income, and the same number of years, and access to the exact same tools, how did she buy her freedom while he was still renting his? The answer is not what you think. And once you see it, you will not be able to unsee it in your own life, on your own street, in your own paycheck. Let me show you the actual numbers first, because the numbers are stranger than the story. At the point she walked out, her invested assets sat at roughly $1,100,000. Her house was paid off. Her car was paid off. Her fixed monthly costs, everything, all in, including insurance and property tax and groceries and the small indulgences she genuinely enjoyed, came to about $3,100 a month, $37,000 a year. Her portfolio, drawn down conservatively, covered that with room to breathe. Now the corner office. At the same moment in time, his invested assets sat at about $460,000. That is not a typo. He earned 6 times what she earned and had less than half of what she had. He had a mortgage with 19 years left on it, a home equity line he'd tapped for the kitchen renovation, 2 car payments totaling $1,400 a month, a boat loan, and roughly $41,000 in revolving credit card balance that he described to himself as temporary. It had been temporary for 4 years. His fixed monthly costs were about $14,200. Sit with that comparison for a second, because it's the whole video in one line. She needed $37,000 a year to be free. He needed $170,000 a year just to stand still. She wasn't richer than him in income. She was richer than him in distance. The gap between what came in and what had to go out. And that gap, not the salary, is the only number that has ever decided who gets to stop working. Here's the part everyone misses. He didn't get here through some catastrophic mistake. There was no gambling problem, no divorce that cleaned him out, no medical disaster. He got here through a series of decisions that every single person who reviewed them would have called reasonable. That's the trap. It doesn't spring on you once. It closes slowly, in increments so small that resisting any individual one would have felt petty. I want to give this thing a name, because unnamed forces are the ones that run your life without your permission. Call it the visibility tax. Here's how it works, and pay attention to the mechanism, because the mechanism is the whole point. Every dollar you spend goes into one of 2 categories. It either buys you something other people can see, or it buys you something only you can feel. A watch is visible. An index fund is not. A new SUV in the driveway is visible. A paid-off Corolla is not. A kitchen renovation is visible to everyone who visits. 19 years shaved off a mortgage is visible to no one. The visibility tax is the premium you pay, automatically, unconsciously, month after month, to make your financial life legible to strangers. And here's the cruel mechanism inside it. Visible spending doesn't just cost you the purchase price. It costs you 3 separate times. First, the money leaves. Second, the money that left can never compound, so you lose everything it would have become. And third, this is the one nobody talks about, visible purchases almost always come with a maintenance obligation. The bigger house needs bigger furniture, higher utilities, a lawn service, more insurance. The nicer car needs premium fuel, higher insurance, dealer servicing. The visible purchase installs a new recurring bill into your life and then quietly raises the floor of what you need to earn forever. Her spreadsheet on the wall wasn't tracking spending, it was tracking that floor. She had one rule, and she wrote it in blue pen at the top of every page: keep the floor low, and the ceiling takes care of itself. Now, I want to be careful here, because this is where a lot of money content turns into moralizing, and that's not what this is. None of this is a character flaw. There's a real body of research behind why this happens, and it starts a lot earlier than you'd guess. Back in 1899, the economist Thorstein Veblen described what he called conspicuous consumption, the idea that a certain category of spending exists not to provide use, but to broadcast status. Its entire function is to be witnessed. Veblen was writing about the industrial elite of his era, but the mechanism he identified turned out to be far more democratic than he imagined. It didn't stay at the top. It filtered all the way down, and today it operates most aggressively not on the wealthy, but on the middle-income earner who is trying to look like they're doing better than they are. Then, in 1996, Thomas Stanley and William Danko published The Millionaire Next Door, and the finding that made that book famous is still the single most useful thing you can know about wealth. When they went looking for actual American millionaires, they kept finding people who did not look the part. People who lived in ordinary houses in ordinary neighborhoods. People who drove used vehicles. People who had never worn an expensive watch in their lives. Meanwhile, a significant share of the people who looked wealthy, the luxury cars, the prestige addresses, held far less in net worth than their appearance implied, and carried far more debt. Stanley and Danko drew a distinction I think about constantly. They separated people into what they called underaccumulators and prodigious accumulators of wealth, and the sorting variable wasn't income. It was the ratio between what you earn and what you keep. Two people, identical salaries, land in opposite categories based entirely on behavior. Add to that the more recent picture from lenders and financial institutions, which consistently shows something uncomfortable. A meaningful share of high earners, people well into six figures, report living paycheck to paycheck. Not because six figures isn't enough, because the floor rose to meet the ceiling every time the ceiling moved. That's the visibility tax at scale. And now let me show you what it actually costs in dollars, because the abstraction is easy to nod along to and the arithmetic is what changes behavior. Start small. Start with something that feels genuinely trivial. The corner office had 2 car payments totaling $1,400 a month. She drove the Corolla, bought used, paid off, with an average all-in monthly cost, including maintenance, the occasional repair, and insurance, of about $230. The monthly gap is $1,170. Now take that gap and do nothing clever with it. Don't pick stocks. Don't time anything. Just put it into a broad market index fund every month and let it sit at a 7% average annual return. After 26 years, the exact length of time they both worked on that floor, that gap alone becomes approximately $1,040,000. Read that again slowly. The car decision, just the car decision, over one working career, more than $1 million. That single line item is larger than her entire portfolio. She didn't need to be a genius. She needed to not have that one bill. Now go bigger, because the big one is where the real damage lives. He bought a house at $4,100 a month, all in the mortgage, taxes, insurance, the home equity line payment, the utilities on square footage he used maybe 20% of. She bought a house at $1,900 a month, and she attacked the principal aggressively for the first 12 years, which is why it was gone by the time she was 49. The monthly gap there is $2,200. $2,200 a month, invested at 7%, over 30 years, becomes approximately $2,690,000. I want you to feel how strange that is. Nobody in that office ever looked at his house and thought, there goes $2.5 million. They thought he's doing well. The cost was invisible precisely because the thing it bought was so visible. And here's the reframe I want you to actually take with you, because this is the mental move that changes decisions in real time. When you're standing at the point of purchase, your brain compares the expensive option to the cheaper option. Nicer car versus okay car. Bigger house versus smaller house. That's the wrong comparison. That comparison is designed to make the upgrade feel small, because the difference between the two options always looks manageable. The real comparison is not between two products. It's between the product and your years. The upgrade isn't competing with the cheaper version. It's competing with your 50s. It's competing with the version of you that gets to decide what Tuesday looks like. He didn't buy a nicer car and a nicer house. He bought a nicer car and a nicer house and 11 additional years of showing up. Nobody presented the trade to him that way, because nobody ever presents it that way. The price tag on the window is never the price. Now widen out, because if this were just one man in one corner office it would be a sad anecdote, not a pattern. It's a pattern. The average price of a new vehicle in the United States has climbed to a level where the typical new car payment now runs well over $700 a month, and a growing share of borrowers are carrying payments above $1,000. Loan terms have stretched 6 years, 7 years, not because people got poorer, but because lenders discovered that if you extend the term far enough, almost any vehicle becomes affordable on a monthly basis. That's the entire innovation of modern consumer finance. Not making things cheaper, but making the monthly number smaller while the total gets larger. Auto loan delinquency rates have been climbing. Total household debt has pushed into record territory. Credit card balances sit at all-time highs, and the average rate on those balances is in the range where a carried balance roughly doubles in about 4 years if you only make minimums. There's a name for the version of this that hits people in their peak earning years. Call it lifestyle drift. The phenomenon where every raise gets absorbed within about 90 days by an upgrade you would have called impossible 91 days earlier. The promotion arrives, the salary jumps 18%, and within a quarter the new number feels exactly as tight as the old one. You genuinely cannot remember what you were spending the difference on before, because there is no difference. The money didn't go anywhere identifiable. It went everywhere. And layered on top of that, there's a comparison problem that simply did not exist for previous generations. Your grandparents compared themselves to 11 neighbors. You compare yourself to a curated, algorithmically selected feed of the most visibly successful moments of tens of thousands of strangers, filtered specifically for the ones that provoke a reaction. You are not comparing yourself to your peers. You are comparing yourself to a highlight reel assembled by a machine that gets paid when you feel inadequate. Under those conditions, spending too much isn't a personal failure. It's the expected outcome. The system is working exactly as designed. You just weren't told you were inside it. Let me put faces on it, because the pattern is clearest at the individual level. Marisol is 34, a nurse practitioner, and she makes $98,000 a year. On paper she's doing great. In practice she has $1,400 a month going to a leased SUV she chose because her old sedan felt embarrassing in the hospital lot, $410 a month across 11 subscriptions she is not audited in 2 years, and $6,000 in credit card balance that she rolls forward every month while telling herself she'll handle it after her next raise. Her retirement account has $19,000 in it. Here's what matters about Marisol. She isn't reckless. She works brutal shifts, she's good at her job, and every one of her decisions had a reason. The lease had a reason. The subscriptions each had a reason. There was never a single moment where she did something obviously stupid. That's the point. The trap is built out of reasonable steps, and reasonable steps are the hardest kind to refuse. Dev is 46 and runs a small logistics company. He clears $220,000 in a good year. He has a 5-bedroom house for a family of 3, a boat he used 4 times last summer, and a country club membership at $11,000 a year that he keeps because 2 of his biggest clients belong. His invested net worth, excluding home equity, is $230,000. Dev's story is the one I find most instructive, because he can articulate the trap perfectly. He'll tell you the club is a business expense, that the house is an investment, that the boat holds value. Every justification is partially true. That's what makes it durable. Dev doesn't have a spending problem. He has a story problem, a narrative that converts consumption into strategy, and it's airtight from the inside. Priya is 29, makes $61,000, and is the person in this video most likely to end up like the woman by the window. She rents a small place with a roommate she likes, drives a 9-year-old Civic, and automatically routes 22% of every paycheck into a target date index fund before she ever sees it. She has $48,000 invested at 29. Her friends assume she's broke, because she says no to about a third of the trips and doesn't post much. Run her forward at that savings rate with modest raises and a 7% return and she crosses $1 million around 48. The thing to notice about Priya is that she isn't sacrificing more than her friends. She's just spending on things that don't photograph well. Warren is 61, a regional sales director, and made over $200,000 a year for most of the last 2 decades. He has $310,000 saved. He's now doing the math that a lot of people do in their 60s, which is the math of how many more years, and the answer keeps coming back: more than I wanted. Warren isn't a cautionary tale because he did something wrong. He's a cautionary tale because he did what everyone around him did, at the speed everyone around him did it, and the result was that at the exact moment he had the most money coming in, he had the least ability to stop. Before we go further, if this is landing, subscribe, because this channel breaks down the real numbers behind this stuff every single week, without the shame and without the sales pitch. Because the biggest point in this entire video is the next one, and it's the thing that reorganizes how you look at everyone around you. Here it is. Once you understand the visibility tax, the entire social map inverts. The people who look rich are, statistically, the most likely to be the most constrained. Not always, but far more often than the picture suggests. The luxury vehicle is, in a large number of cases, a monthly obligation attached to a person who cannot miss 2 paychecks. The renovated house is frequently a leveraged position. The visible signals of wealth are, disproportionately, signals of cash flow commitment, which is the opposite of wealth. Wealth is optionality. Cash flow commitment is the elimination of optionality. And the people who look plain, the paid-off Corolla, the same jacket for 6 winters, the house that's a little smaller than they could afford, a meaningful share of them are the ones who can walk out any Tuesday they choose. Go back to that floor. The corner office had every visible marker of success and was, functionally, the most trapped person in the building. $14,200 a month in obligations means he could not take a lower-paying job he'd enjoy more, could not take 6 months off, could not absorb a layoff, could not get sick for long. Every visible thing he owned was quietly holding him in that chair. And the woman by the window, with the chipped mug and the taped-up spreadsheet, was the only person on that floor who was genuinely free, and she was the only one nobody envied. That's the inversion. Wealth is not what you can display. Wealth is what you can walk away from. So how do you actually step off this treadmill? Not in some dramatic, austere, monk-in-a-cabin way. In a way that fits a normal life. 4 things. They're simple, and simple is the point, because complicated systems get abandoned in week 3. 1. Ask the visibility question before you buy. Just one honest question, and it takes 4 seconds. If nobody would ever know I owned this, would I still want it? Not can I afford it? Not is it a good deal? Just that. Some things pass instantly. The good mattress, the tool that saves you an hour a week, the trip that stays with you for a decade. Some things fall apart the moment you ask. You'll be surprised which is which, and you'll be surprised how fast it works. 2. Automate the gap before you see it, not after. Willpower loses to convenience roughly 100% of the time over a 30-year horizon. So remove willpower from the equation entirely. Set a transfer that fires the day your paycheck lands. Start at whatever percentage doesn't scare you. 5% counts, 3% counts, and then raise it by 1 point every time you get a raise. You will not feel it. That's the entire mechanism. Priya isn't disciplined. Priya is automated. 3. Mute the feed. Not delete, mute. Identify the specific accounts that reliably leave you feeling like you're behind, and remove them. This is not about being anti-social media. It's about recognizing that comparison is the fuel the whole engine runs on, and you can starve it without changing anything else about your life. People consistently report their spending drops without any conscious effort after this, because the desire itself gets quieter. 4. Start in the calm corner. If investing feels intimidating, don't start with anything complicated. Park your emergency fund in a high-yield savings account where it earns something instead of nothing. Then put your long-term money in a broad, low-cost index fund and stop looking at it. That's it. That's the whole strategy that built the portfolio of the woman by the window. Boring, automatic, decades long. And the most important thing I can tell you, your position doesn't matter nearly as much as your direction. If you're 38 with $9,000 saved and you feel sick reading this, you are not behind. You're at a turning point. Someone with $400,000 and a rising floor is on a worse trajectory than you are with $9,000 and a falling one. Velocity beats position. It beats it every single time, over every timeline that matters. If you want the next step on this, the natural one is understanding how the compounding math actually works underneath everything I've said. Why 7% over 30 years does what it does, and why the first 10 years feel like nothing and the last 10 feel like magic. That's the foundation this whole thing sits on, and it makes every decision in your life easier once it's in your head. Now go back to that floor one more time. The chipped mug, the spreadsheet taped to the wall, corners curling, blue pen, updated by hand every month for 26 years. For a quarter century, people walked past that desk and saw someone who hadn't quite made it, someone doing fine, but not well, a little behind. And the corner office, with the leather chair and the river view and the watch, the thing everyone on that floor was quietly measuring themselves against. You know what that spreadsheet actually was now? It wasn't a budget. It was a countdown. Every blue pen entry was another month of distance between what came in and what had to go out. And the whole time everyone was pitying that desk. She was building the only asset that has ever mattered. And the corner office wasn't a reward. It was a bill. It arrived monthly, it grew every year, and it had to be paid in the only currency he couldn't earn more of. She had less money coming in than almost anyone on that floor. She left 11 years early anyway. Because rich isn't what you can afford to buy. Rich is what you can afford to stop doing.